A very good afternoon to all of you. Welcome to this session on personality test. First of all, my compliments to most of you who all have qualified for the civil service personality test examination. You have traveled this distance, which was a very difficult distance. And now this is the last bastion that you have to conquer. And you have to be careful because after having worked so hard, if you don't take care of yourself now, then all the effort would have gone waste. So the coming couple of months before your personality test, you should be careful and prepare yourself. My job today will be to tell you how to go about preparing for the personality test. And this presentation would primarily be on three fronts. Number one, what does the board expect of you? It's very important to understand whoever you go to talk to as to what are his expectations. And it is on the basis of those expectations that we will determine how do you prepare yourself to come up to those expectations. And finally, the third part of my presentation would be, what do you do on the day of the interview? But that's going to be crucial because ultimately how you perform on that day will give you marks, or probably you'll flounder. I hope not so. My presentation actually will be based on my personal experience. I have been through two interviews for the civil service examination. This was way back in 1980 and 1981. In the year 1980, I qualified for the police service. And in the second year, 1981, I did reasonably well to qualify for the Indian Administrative Service. The reason why I'm mentioning this is that what was the difference were the marks in the interview or the personality test that I got in these 2 years. The first year, that is 1980, I scored 55% marks, and that was the reason I couldn't qualify for the Indian Administrative Service. In the second year, I probably got the highest in the country, which was 80%. Now, I'm going to share as we go along what exactly happened in the first year of interview, and what did I do during the first and the second personality test, and what happened in the second personality test. This will give you a flavor of how you can prepare for your personality test. My presentation is also based on the experience that I've had with candidates like you. In the past 6 years, I've been guiding those that have appeared before the board, and we've got a lot of feedback from them. And this feedback is based on what we were trying to tell them. And on the basis of that, what exactly should you do for the personality test? With these initial words, let me take you through the presentation that I have for you. Now, what you must all understand that your knowledge has already been tested. I find a lot of aspirants who are planning to appear before the board slogging it out, reading books. And many ask me this question, sir, should I prepare for the optional that I had taken? My suggestion to you is just relax. Take it easy. Don't read too much. Try and consolidate what you've read. Because here, the issue is not about your knowledge per se. The issue is how you present your case, how you present yourself, how do you articulate. These are the aspects that you have to look into. You must clearly understand that this is not an interview. They're not going to grill you. They're not going to push you. In almost every case, they put you to a lot of comfort before they start asking questions. They will make you feel comfortable. So you don't have to be nervous in advance. During my time, it was slightly different. But now I'm told, and this based on the feedback that I've received from all those that have appeared before the board, is that they make you feel very, very comfortable. Now, what is the difference between an interview and a personality test? Interview could be looking into your knowledge base of questioning you. Here, in the personality test, the questions are asked to get the best out of your personality, to understand your personality. And this personality is much beyond your knowledge. As I had said earlier, your knowledge has already been tested. They're not testing your knowledge. So, and I'm repeating this time and again, because if you don't know an answer, don't worry about it. I did that mistake in the first year. I didn't know a particular answer. And thereafter, in the entire personality test, I was living in that failure of my inability to answer that question. You have to get out of it and understand very clearly that on this earth, no one is omniscient. No one is expected to know everything about everything. So there will be many cases. As I said, in the second year, when I scored 80% marks, almost 20 to 25% questions, I didn't have an answer. It didn't really make a difference. But I had come to understand this very clearly, that there will be questions where you will not have an answer. It's your personality trait as to how do you overcome that temporary failure in your inability to answer that question. Many of us, like me, we live in that failure, and hence we are even unable to answer questions which I know the answer of, because you have a mental block. Since you are living in that, you are unable to apply your mind to the questions that come to you subsequently. So it is not an interview, it is a personality test, and there are many other personality traits they are looking at. They're looking at how positive you are. It's a very, very important aspect, because as a civil servant, you will be faced with a number of challenges, and your positive attitude is going to make a world of a difference. Now, your attitude is determined by what you are, not by the set of circumstances. It reminds me of a book that I read by Robin Sharma, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. And he brings out beautifully that there's no such thing as objective reality. You know, see, you don't make the set of circumstances. You are posted as a sub-divisional magistrate or a district magistrate or wherever you're posted, the circumstances get given to you. It is your approach to resolving that particular issue that matters. So you're not made the set of circumstances, but if you are calm, quiet, reflective, if you are able to analyze the situation, if you are to respond positively, because some people, you give them a problem, they become a part of the problem. Now, the board is going to be very discerning to assess whether you become a part of the problem or you're trying to find a solution. Mind you, you're not supposed to provide solutions. They might pose a problem to you. I'm taking an extreme example. They might ask you, what is the solution to the Kashmir problem? Now, had there been an easy solution, it would have been found by now. There is no easy solution. There will be a number of problems that will be posed to you for which there is no easy solution. So they're not seeking solution from you. They are trying to understand, how do you approach that problem? Whether you are able to logically analyze the issues, whether you are able to present analytically, whether you are able to articulate well, they will assess you on the basis of how you approach a problem, not give the permanent solution. Because some of us get nervous, oh, it's a very difficult issue, sir, how will I answer? You know, these days also, someone asks you to provide a solution to the Manipur problem. Now, if it were so easy to find a solution to Manipur problem, it would have been found by now. So if you were asked such a tricky question, what you have to do is to present the situation as it is, analyze it, suggest alternatives, which may not be perfect. There would be situations where board member may disagree with you. Fair enough. Disagreement is a way of life. You don't have to fight with him. You don't have to win an argument. What you have to do is what you think is right. As we go along, I'll give you some more examples as to how to approach such an issue. So the critical point here is for you to understand, they are not there to interview. They are making an assessment of your personality, which is much beyond knowledge. What else do I have here? What they're looking at is clarity of thought and expression. That is a problem with a lot of us. We're not very clear. We may disagree with each other. There would be a difference of opinion, but whatever I'm saying it with clarity. Now, I'm telling you all this for you to understand what they're seeking. In subsequent slides, I'll tell you how to become one. My job is not merely to tell you what they are seeking. The idea of understanding what the board is seeking is to then help you to do what the board wants, what is expected of you. We will do that in subsequent slides as to how do you develop a clarity of thought. How do you, they will also assess whether you have leadership potential. Because ultimately, at least in the IAS, in the IPS, in the revenue service, in a large number of services, in railway services, your leadership potential has to be assessed, because ultimately you're going to work as a leader. Now, what are those qualities of the leaders they are looking at? First, of course, whether you have the right communication skills, you are able to communicate what you have in mind, and I'll talk about it later on, how to develop communication skills. Then, how clear, I use the word clarity of thought. A leader has to be very clear in his thinking. A leader has to be very clear in his communication. A leader has to be a visionary. A leader has to know how to achieve that vision. Leaders should be able to plan. These are attributes of a leader. So they will see. Now, they are not looking at an accomplished leader in you, but they're looking at a potential leader in you. So you may not have some of the traits of leadership, doesn't matter, but they will see in you whether this guy has the potential to develop those. Then integrity. This is very, very important. Now, integrity, especially at the time of board review, at the time of personality test, would be assessed by your consistency of what you're saying. I mean, if you're not consistent, then they might question your integrity. Integrity will also be assessed by your ability to accept your shortcomings, by your ability to be humble, by your ability to express what comes to your mind without any confusion. This is integrity. Because if you say something here and in the next question you say something else, which is contrary in belief to do, then they will say he's not consistent. You know, if you are consistently honest, that is integrity. Honesty is probably at a point in time for a particular act, but if you're consistently honest, that's integrity. So that's what they're looking at. Then, as I mentioned to you, they're looking at quality of honesty. They're looking at humility. Now, this is very important. I'll come to that later on as well. How do you convey humility? Humility is conveyed by conceding where you think or where you find that you are not totally correct. Humility is conveyed by being confident yet not being arrogant. So if you have a point of view on a particular issue, you can use words like, sir, in my opinion, in my limited understanding, but you can also say, sir, this is what I think is right. This is what it is. Now, as I'll mention later on also, at your age, at your stage in life, you are not supposed to have arrived at conclusions. You're still learning. And that needs to be conveyed, and that will reflect your humility. In the sense that here is a person, he's confident about what he's saying. But his confidence is based on the facts at his command. He has an open mind. If more fact comes to his knowledge, then he may change his view. Now here, you will not be treated as fickle. Fickleness is on the same facts, you are changing your views. And confidence is on the basis of the facts at command, you are making a particular point of view. If some more facts come to light, you do that. I'll give you an example from my interview or personality test during the second year. When the board was asking questions, there was one gentleman who was reading a book. Now, I was very surprised what he's doing, but now when I reflect on it, I think they also get bored asking questions morning till evening. So this guy, mine probably was the last interview of the day. So this guy must have been very bored. He was reading a book or whatever may have been the reason. That's my conjecture. So when his turn came, he read a sentence from his book. Now, I had no clue about that. It was probably the book was India-China War. It made a statement. So he asked me, Mr. Swaroop, what do you think of it? So I said, sir, I have no background of this. It will be wrong of me to comment on that. That's very important. You have to confess where you don't know. Confessing lack of knowledge is integrity. It's humility. But sometimes we try and fib. I'll come to this later as well. When I say facts, you should not try and guess. Not at all. And even opinions, if you don't know the facts on the basis of which that opinion has to be formed, don't try and start opinionating until you are asked to it. So I told him, sir, I don't know the background. He said, no, you tell me, what do you make out of it? So I said whatever I had to say. Then he said, no, but the book has a different view. So I politely told him, sir, that's precisely what I said. Sir, I am not aware of the background, but if you permit me, sir, immediately after this interview, I'll go and buy this book, read it, and maybe find you and discuss it with you. Everyone started laughing. Now, I'm not saying you should do this. I was already in the police service. I was a bit confident. I had a bit of a sense of humor. So I use that, not only in this and other instances also. The point that I'm trying to make here is, you must understand that being humble does not mean lack of confidence. Confidence is the manner in which you are presenting your point of view. Humility is your capability, your willingness to accept a different point of view. Humility is your ability to accept your shortcomings. Humility is to accept your mistakes. It's normal to make mistakes. Anyone can make mistakes. So that's humility for you. So some people have asked me in the past, sir, won't I appear fickle if I keep saying it on the basis of my knowledge? I'm saying that. Obviously, all your opinions are based on your knowledge. So that's how it is. Now let us look at what board is seeking. I have alluded to some of it, but let me point out some more. So I had mentioned about positive attitude. To me, this is the key. Attitude is the key, because I have personally, I put in 38 years as a civil servant, and I've often said the problem with the civil service is not expertise, but attitude. Because expertise can be outsourced, attitude can't be outsourced. Attitude has to be you. No one can come and occupy that position in you, but expertise can come. Expertise, anyone can give you that expertise, but attitude has to be yours. Hence, a civil servant, in my understanding, and probably board's understanding also, has to have a positive attitude. No matter how grim the situation is, he has to look at the positive aspects of it. So, for example, again, I give an example from my own career. When I was posted as Coal Secretary Government of India, this was 2014. All hell had broken loose. All scams had happened. How do you look at that situation? I could have become a part of that problem. Ye kahan mujhe post kar diya? What will I do here? What was my reaction? When I walked into the room of my predecessor, he was sitting behind piles of files, looked absolutely harassed, harried, because CBI was after officers and files, and it was very grim. Now, how do you respond to that situation? My response was very simple. My response was, the situation is so bad that it can't become worse. So anything that will happen now will be an improvement, and I can walk away with that credit. Now, the objective situation was pretty bad. But my subjective thinking was that despite being bad, there could be a way forward. Now, if civil servants have that attitude, which I think the board would be looking into, they will give you situations where they will see how you respond to a situation. Again, as I keep saying, you are not expected to provide solutions to the problems that you have. It's your approach to the problem, how positively you look at. Because in a leadership positions, which most of you will occupy, if you do not have a positive attitude, how will you take your team along with you? So having a positive attitude is extremely, extremely important. And hence, you should try and practice how do you respond to situations as you go along. Later on, when I say how part of it, we'll come to how do you develop that. It's very difficult to change an attitude in a month or two, but try and do whatever you can, because attitude takes a long time to build, and to change it is very difficult. But if you can bring forth the positive part of your existence, then it will help you in getting better marks. Now, your response to a situation will also be dependent on your awareness levels. And here, I would like to draw an attention between knowledge and awareness. Awareness is like any person living in a society or living in an institution would know what is happening around him. A civil servant is supposed to be aware. He may not be that knowledgeable. That's the difference between going in depth. And that's why I advise people who are appearing in personality tests that don't try and start reading political science or whatever has been your subject or history. No, I don't think that's what they are required. You've already been judged on your knowledge, how aware you are. Now, let me give you an example. Suppose you given political science as your optional. They will not ask you what is the philosophy of Plato or Aristotle. They won't ask you. But they will ask you if something has happened today in the political context and you are supposed to be aware of international relations, your awareness levels of what is happening, say, today in Syria, or for that matter in the Middle East, should be more than a layman, because you are a student of political science. So they won't ask you on the subject, but anyone who's done that or taken that as an optional will be expected to know more, should be able to have more facts at command, should be able to analyze more on the basis of those facts. So that is what awareness is. So it's not expertise. They are seeking that any person who's planning to join the civil service should have his eyes and ears open. And later on, I'll tell you how to develop that awareness. Right now, I'm not going about how. What I'm saying is what is required, because that's what board is looking for. Because if you understand what the board is looking for, then what I tell you subsequently as to how do you prepare for that, you'll be able to appreciate. This is extremely, extremely important. You may have all the knowledge sitting here. You may have written it well, but if you're unable to articulate your thought clearly, logically, and coherently, you're gone. Because it may be sitting there. The marks that the board will give you will not be based on what is sitting here or what you wrote in the examination. It's what you speak. And that's where you have to have your clarity of thought. It has to be logical. And you can develop that logic. In 2 months, if you practice what I'm going to tell you subsequently, you'll be able to tell that. And coherently actually means you can't keep saying one thing and then another thing, then another thing. There has to be a logical relationship between one part of what you're saying to the second part to the third part. So it has to be clear. It has to be logical. That's what you got to, and that's what board is looking at. You may have the best of knowledge sitting here, but if you are unable to convey that coherently and logically, you won't get marks. And finally, this is also part of awareness. The board expects you to know things about around yourself. So wherever you're coming from, hometown, if you work somewhere, then it is expected that you would understand the environment which you are working or the organization that you worked in. Many of you are already in some civil service. and now you're planning to go to IAS or IFS or IPS. In that case, you should know about the service you are in. If you've had some training, you should be able to know. You should be able to, suppose you studied in a particular university, you are expected to know about the university. So these are things you should be very, very clear that you should be able to answer questions relating to your job, if you have any, relating to the place where you are. Place could be the city you are, the state you are in, the country you are in. You're supposed to know that. Anyone appearing the civil service exam has to have an awareness of his hometown, of the state, educational background, work experience, and hobbies. Now, let me come to hobbies. The very interesting thing, at Study IQ, we have been advising everyone to write hobbies correctly. Because I have seen instances where all sorts of hobbies are written and they get run into problems. Now, hobbies does not necessarily mean that you should have an expertise in that area. Why? Because if you know how the hobbies are defined, hobbies is something which you do during your spare time. So you're not supposed to be an expert there, but you should know about it. I mean, you should know certainly know more than any person who doesn't have it as a hobby. And some people ask me that said they don't have a hobby. No, I can't believe that, because everyone has spare time and you do something. You may be daydreaming, that could be a hobby. You may be reading, you may be swimming, you may be running. These are all hobbies. Hobby is something which you like. So you can't have something as a hobby which you don't like. So it's an assumption that whatever is a hobby that you like, some details of the hobby would be required. So board expects you to know more than anybody else on that subject or topic or thing that you like as your hobby, but they don't expect you to be experts. So you can get away with saying that no. So for example, if you love playing cricket and they ask you what is the weight of the cricket ball, if you don't know that, I don't think it will be held against you. But if you given cricket as a hobby and they ask you what happened in the test match yesterday, and then you say, sir, I don't know, then there's a trouble. Because you have to be aware of your hobbies. No, anyone who has a hobby about cricket should know what happened yesterday in the India-Australia match. If you don't know that, then there could be trouble. I'm giving some random examples to illustrate to you what sort of awareness levels that you have. Now, these are personality traits that board looks into. How composed you are. So they may give you situations, whether you get flustered. They will also see when this gentleman is unable to answer a question, how is his demeanor? And that was the difference between my first year and second year. After I couldn't answer that question in the first year, my face fell actually. I mean, I could make out, I was not myself. I had lost my confidence. And that's what actually costed me a service in that particular year. So they look at what you have to be composed. Why? Because all civil servants come across such situations where composure is the key. Because if you blow your top, if you lose your top, then what about your team? Your team will not be able to function. So you have to show that composure there. Then efficiency. This is another important aspect that gets to be overlooked. Why? Everyone talks about honesty. Honesty is a necessary condition. But you are paid to be efficient. You are paid to deliver. You are paid to demonstrate that despite the limitations within which you exist, you are able to deliver goods and services to the people who are there. And that can be done through development efficiency. Now, efficiency there could be many aspects of efficiency. One, of course, communication is an aspect of being efficient, but planning, that's taking your team along, your own technical knowledge, use of technology. These are things which make you efficient. So these are things. They don't expect you to be super efficient right from the word go. Much of it you learn as you're there, but efficiency is very, very important. And then authenticity. This they will catch you, because if you're not authentic, the board, they are very smart people. So I have often told everyone that don't lie. Be honest. Speak the truth. Doesn't matter. Even if it appears as negative, you will be given marks for integrity. You will be given marks for authenticity. Whatever you are saying, you have a belief in that, you have knowledge of that. Guess nahi kijiye wahan pe. Until they ask you to guess. In a later slide, I talked about how do you handle facts and opinions. So authenticity depends on that. Now, I've told you what the board expects. This is a critical side as to how do you prepare yourself to meet the board. What do you do in the next couple of months before the personality test? As to what should you do? And here I'll go step by step and explain to you how do you come up to the expectations of the board. Now, everyone's threshold is different. Every individual is different. Every threshold is different. So my suggestion to all of you is don't compare yourself with others. Some may appear to be very articulate. Don't feel, complex just because someone can speak well and you are not that well. No, don't worry about it. You shouldn't be comparing yourself with others. What you should do is to focus on yourself and see how in the next couple of months before your day comes for the personality test, what can you do on a daily basis, on a regular basis. Now, listen to this very carefully. I'm telling you with personal experience and experience of past 6 years. In fact, just a few days ago, I was at the Lal Bahadur Shastri National Academy of Administration talking to informally to 2024 batch, where a large number of those that had qualified had gone through our course here, and they were very happy with what we told them. Now, if you're not happy with what we tell you to do, and you don't do what you tell you to do, then you will be held responsible for it. Our experience tells us in past 6 years, if you do what we're going to tell you, you're going to get very good marks. There were a number of such IAS officers who qualified last year who came up to me and said, sir, whatever you told, sir, we went through it, and this is what we got. Excellent marks they got interview. So my suggestion to you is, listen to this very carefully and try and follow up. So first point here is awareness, articulation and awareness. Now, as I keep saying, there isn't much time for you to acquire knowledge, and you should not waste your time in acquiring knowledge. Your focus should be on your ability to articulate what you have in mind. But you have been only reading and writing in the past year and a half for the examination. You've not been speaking. And before the interview board, it's only speaking that matters. How you speak, what you speak. So how do I improve my communication skills? If you don't improve your communication skills, no matter how good you are deep inside here, you'll find it difficult to score marks in the personality test. So how do you go about it? You can improve it. And whatever I'm going to tell you now is based on personal experience and experience of large number of candidates who qualified for the IAS, IFS, IPS, and other services. What do you do? Each one of you must be reading some newspaper or the other. So what you do is open the editorial page, pick up an editorial article, stand in front of a mirror, take out your mobile phone and record as you read the article aloud, slowly but loudly. I'm repeating. Pick up an editorial article, stand in front of a mirror, and read the article aloud, slowly and loudly, pronouncing each word very clearly. Now, there are a number of benefits that will accrue out of this. Number one, your articulation will improve. If you record it in your phone, within 10-15 days, you'll discover that you are able to speak out what you have in mind. The problem that happens, I don't know with you, but with me used to happen that I used to have that idea in my mind, but I didn't have the right word or I used to struggle to find that right word to express myself. Right now, what you hear of me is a finished product. I practiced a lot. Now I am able to convey. I don't have to think so much and translate and speak to you. Usually what happens is, since my mother tongue was Hindi, you all must be having your own mother tongues. Now, you think in that language of your mother tongue, you translate it mentally, and then you speak it out. And in doing that, on many occasions, you don't find the right word to express the thought that comes to your mind. Now, thought has to be put in a particular manner, in a particular word. Actually, a word encapsulates a thought. Now, how do you get into the habit of being able to convey what you have in mind? And one way of doing it, there are many other ways, but one way, very important, successful way of doing it is to read the editorial article aloud. There are a number of benefits, as I said. One, of course, your articulation will improve. You'll be able to speak out clearly what you have in mind. And since you'll be recording it, if there is any problem at any level of that articulation, you'll be able to gauge that and correct it subsequently. But read it slowly and loudly. Initially, you will face problems because you have not done it before. I face that problem, and you feel disgusted. What is this going on? But my suggestion to you is do it every day without failure. If you don't do it every day, then it won't serve the purpose. It's like medicine. You will improve only if you do it every day. Fix a date and time, and at that point in time, every day, read the editorial article aloud. There are some other benefits of that. because all these editorial articles are on some current issue or some important issue. So you will acquire knowledge about that current issue. Third, these articles are written by people of repute. So you will know how to present an issue logically and coherently. All these articles are very logical and coherent. Now, these things will gradually settle in your mind. In a month or two, you will also start grasping and understanding and articulating your ideas in a coherent manner, in a logical manner. Because the more you read, the more you will understand how an issue has to be presented. All these articles are, as I said, are written by people of repute, and they present their case in a very logical manner. Now, it may be possible that you disagree with what is written. No harm. Disagreement would be there. Even with the board, there will be disagreement. But you look at the manner in which that person presents his case. That's very important. And that's what you will develop while you read the article aloud. I'm repeating it time and again. Many do it, some don't do it. Some who didn't do it, come back to me later on. Sir, आपकी बात मान ली होती तो आज हम क्लियर कर गए होते. 5 नंबर से छूट गए, 6 नंबर. You know, every mark is important. So you have to be very careful about every aspect of it. Read it aloud. After you've read the article aloud and recorded it in your phone, keep the newspaper down and speak it out in your own words. Now, this will be tougher than the first exercise because you may not have understood certain aspects of it, what you've read. You may not recall everything, doesn't matter. Initially, if you're unable to be, if you're not fluent in speaking out what you've read, don't worry about it. I'm repeating it time and again because you've not practiced it. If you practice it regularly, I guarantee that within 15 days, you'll see a change. You know, everyone who does this exercise regularly comes back to me to tell me, sir, my fluency has improved. So not only your fluency, your articulation, your ability to express the thoughts that come to your mind logically, all this will improve. So read it aloud, keep it down, speak it aloud, record that as well. Recording is important for you to understand where you are going wrong, if you're going wrong. And you will see the improvement yourself. That will give you a lot of confidence. You know, this personality test is a lot about confidence. If, you know, the moment you are able to express yourself, your confidence will grow. Otherwise, you'll always be wondering whether you're saying the right word, whether you're saying the right, should I say it this way? Should I say that way? This is a question that comes to everybody's mind, even in my mind, whether I should speak, keep quiet, whether I should say this. Once you get into the mode of reading and speaking aloud, you'll be able to do. Now, this is first set of exercise that I'm suggesting, but the most important part, because if you don't do this regularly, you won't help. It won't help. The second part of improving articulation is through group discussions. No, in my time, we did not have this facility of WhatsApp or internet, but I was in the police service. As I said, in the second year, I did very well. We were all at the National Police Academy. So we were about, I think, 20 of us who had qualified. So we had constituted ourselves into 4 groups of 5 each. And we used to have regularly group discussions on a topic decided on the previous day. So my suggestion to all of you is that you must have on a fixed time a group discussion on topic which is decided on the previous day. And the drill is very simple. Every day you will decide that this is the topic we'll speak on the following day. You will also decide who's going to be the lead speaker. There will be a lead speaker. He will initiate the discussion. He will speak for 10 minutes. Now, you can question and ask me, sir, we will not answer any question for 10 minutes. Obviously not. But the articulation, when that person does some research, studies, and next day when he opens the discussion with 10 minutes, he should have been prepared and he will be able to, you know, understand, then present, and he will improve as he makes presentation. After he's spoken for 10 minutes, then every other participant will make a comment for 2 minutes each. In doing all this, you are building yourself into an improved presenter. Your articulation will improve, your presentation will improve, you become logical. Initially, it won't happen. So I'm repeating it. Every day you'll decide on the subsequent day what would be the topic you will discuss. You can pick up any topic, the group decides. And then that there will be a leader, person who will initiate the discussion, he'll speak for 10 minutes on that particular topic. By doing so, even he will benefit, others will benefit because they will get to know about that particular subject. And then each of the other 4, they will talk for 2 minutes, they will give their comments on it, and then there will be an open discussion. This entire exercise will not last for more than 45 minutes, but you have to do it regularly. These days, my suggestion is constitute WhatsApp group, do these discussions regularly without failure. Now, in the previous few years, there were stray instances where some people found other thing more important than this group discussion. I don't know what that other thing was, whether it was a movie or a dinner or a birthday party, because these things will happen even after a year. You won't get another opportunity to get into the civil service. You have this opportunity, sacrifice those. If it clashes with group discussions. Otherwise, I would ask you to party, enjoy yourself, take it easy. But if there is a group discussion, paramount, leave other things, have that group discussion. If you don't do it regularly, it won't benefit. I can guarantee that if you do these two things, read the newspaper properly, speak it aloud, and have these group discussions, then things will improve. Now, this is one way of improving your confidence level, improving your articulation. These are related. Because if you are able to articulate yourself, you articulate well, you'll grow in confidence, because you'll have the confidence to be able to speak out what you have in mind. So this drill for improving articulation is very, very important. I mentioned here, practice reading aloud editorial from newspapers like the Hindu. I'm not saying whether you should read Hindu or whichever newspaper. So long as you read any, you read the Times of India, Indian Express, I couldn't care less, but pick that up. And then I have spoken about the group discussions, critical. Because that's where, again, in the first and the second year was, in the first year, I felt I was being interviewed. In the second year, when I did, it was more of a group discussion. I mean, we were joining in discussion, everyone was laughing, it was easy. That's how you have to reduce the interview to. And then, of course, mastering soft skills. Soft skills, basically, on some people ask me, and I'll do that on one-on-one discussions with them. Without realizing, some of you have developed that traits over a period of time. Someone slouch when they sit. Someone are very grim when they're talking. I keep telling everyone, smiling is the best thing that you can do with your lips. So you must have a light smile, because it reduces your tension, mental tension. So those soft skills, if you can develop, it will help you. Sorry. Self-reflection. I would suggest all of you who have qualified for this interview should sit alone for a while every day and reflect on what's going on, because that makes you understand. I have often said, आदमी अपने आप से झूठ नहीं बोलता. So आप सोचिए इसको, think over it, how you're going, whether what you're doing is the right way about it. So you have to reflect on what has been your past, what has been your education, where have you been. This reflection will help you. Subject knowledge, don't worry too much about it. But don't read the theoretical part of it. Here, as I mentioned earlier, if something new has happened or something current has happened with reference to what your subject was, optional paper was, then you should know about it. That is the knowledge you should acquire. My suggestion time and again is don't read too much. People busy. Even yesterday, someone was asking me, sir, which all books I read? Don't read any book. Now the time is to talk, talk, and talk. You've read sufficiently. If you enjoy reading somewhere, read it. Newspaper, etc. is very fine. Newspaper, you should to be aware. You should listen to discussions. I've stopped watching TV. I don't know what's there on the television, but my still view is CNBC is a very decent channel. Very relevant discussions are there. In other places, they're just shouting at each other. So don't waste your time. But if for entertainment's sake, you want to see what nation wants to know, go and watch the television. I have no problem with that. That's more entertainment value. But as far as for your personality test is concerned, I would suggest if you can watch debates on CNBC, they're very good discussions. You can probably benefit from them. And as I said, current affairs. This is very, very important. Now, current affairs, don't try and learn too many things, but be aware of what's going on, especially if you have mentioned something in your DAF 2. I'll come to that. DAF 2 is a very, very important document. But for your subject, and it would be expected of you to be fully conversant with what is happening in the country, outside the country. And that is what current affairs is. And you should do it. I mean, I used to do it as a matter of habit. After my class 12, I used to do it regularly, irrespective of civil service exam. So being aware of what is happening around me became a habit with me. I would suggest if it is not already a habit with you, should become a habit, because then you should enjoy it. And I use the word enjoy is very important. I don't know how you prepared for your written examination, but enjoy this journey till your personality test. Don't feel tense about it. Relax. Go out with your friends. Have a ball. Go to a movie. Don't try and read books. Go to movies. Watch television. Sit and have chat. Have a chat with your parents, with your friends, with your siblings. Anybody that you find, have a chat. You should be speaking, and get into the habit of speaking. Then mock interviews. Mock interviews are helpful, but don't go in for mock interview. Mock interview should help you make an assessment of what's going wrong and have it as early as possible. My suggestion is, if you do a mock interview in next week or 10 days, then you'll get an idea of what are your strengths and weaknesses. Mock interviews have nothing to do, so to say, with your final performance. They have a lot to do in assessing yourself. So mock interviews, I mean, I have seen candidates going for 5 mock interviews, 6 interviews. I don't think that's required. Instead of that, you focus on yourself, improve yourself. Use mock interview to make an assessment of yourself. Be very honest about it. Don't try and hide anything in the mock interview. Let it be revealed, because it gets revealed, then if there is anything wrong, it can be cured. So you must make, as I said earlier, also self-awareness. Mock interview is for self-assessment. And be very candid with the people who take your interview in mock interview. Ask them clearly as to what are the positives and negatives they have found. If you do that, then if you are part of Study IQ, I will personally be interacting with each one of you. I'll give you specific time. I don't take any mock interviews, but I'll be available for offline or online discussion, 10 to 15 minutes, discussing with you at length what you could do, because each individual has different traits. Each individual has different set of problems. So my job, as has been in the past 5-6 years, has been to understand that individual and tell him this is what he should improve upon. This is what he should prepare for. That's what I've been doing for the past 5 years. I'll be available, I will not be available for mock interviews, but not merely offline, online also, whatever is convenient. What you have to do is to message Study IQ. They will message me in turn. I'll fix a time. I'll call you on phone and have a chat with you. I have had that with hundreds of aspirants in the previous years. I don't mind doing that. I travel a lot, but I'll be able to find time while traveling and have a chat with you. Understand. But for that, it's important for you to send us this DAF2. Because without DAF2, I would not know the background. Now, I'll come to DAF2 because that's a very, very important document you have. Before I come on the day of the interview, let me discuss very briefly DAF2. Now, today is the last day for submission of DAF2. I hope you've done it. I hope all of you have thought over it. Some days ago, I had made a presentation on the 16th on what to do, what not to do in DAF. If you filled your DAF properly, because you must look at it this way. What does the board know about you except you being physically present in front of him? Your background is given in DAF. So my experience in the past few years tells me that a lot of questions get asked on DAF. So when I discuss with you on one-on-one, I will be going at length at the DAF and suggest to you what sort of questions can be asked. Now, you don't have to mug up those answers. I'm not in favor of learning things by heart, but you will have it at the back of mind, and then it will help you prepare. So whatever you've written, whether your achievements or in terms of hobbies, I will be able to tell you what sort of questions could possibly be asked. Subsequently also, the next session that we'll take, which will be on 26th, the next session will be on DAF-based questions. So we will have actual DAFs of people, cull out the possible questions for you to start thinking about what sort of questions can be asked of you. So we will tell you what sort of questions were asked in the past based on DAF. So next session on 26th will be on DAF2. But my suggestion to you is you must submit all these DAFs to Study IQ so that we are aware of what sort of things you filled there, and we will be able to guide you properly. Now, coming to the last day, that is the day of your interview, what do you do? You know, again, I have had personal experience. I appeared twice. First year, my dad wanted me to wear a suit. Now, I had never worn a suit in my life. And that was the first suit I was wearing. And it was probably late April. It was pretty hot. I felt pretty miserable there. Of course, it didn't impact me, but indirectly, I was feeling uneasy. My suggestion is you should physically feel easy as you go in, as you walk into the interview board. You should not be uncomfortable, either feeling very hot or uneasy. Never wear a new pair of shoes or new pair of shirt. Don't do that. Don't be very casual also. You shouldn't be there going there in jeans or knickers or things like that. Be formal, but you don't have to necessarily wear a tie if you're going there in April or May. Even otherwise, if you don't wear a tie, it won't make a difference. Maybe earlier it was, but now it doesn't make a difference what you wear, so long as you don't wear anything unusual. This is very important. You know, these days when I look around, I find all sorts of hairstyles. Um, I mean, they shave it off here and something here, something at the back. I don't know what sort of hairstyle is. For me, that's unusual. So there's no harm if you can carry that and the questions asked on that, if you can answer that. But don't do that. My suggestion is, if you have a beard, it should be trimmed properly. I mean, you can have a Virat Kohli cut or some cut, whatever you want. But you should be able to, someone may notice it, oh, your beard resembles that of Virat Kohli. He'll ask you questions on Virat Kohli, you better answer them. So, हमारी तरफ मैं इलाहाबाद से हूँ, वहाँ कहते हैं बंदर के हाथ में अस्तुरा क्यों थमाते हैं आप? I'm not calling board members bandar, but I mean, you're giving them something to rip you off unnecessarily. So don't wear anything unusual. To the ladies, I suggest don't wear a very strong perfume or anything. Don't wear stilettos or high heels. Be comfortable, whatever you're comfortable in. I mean, if you're comfortable in stiletto, then you don't have to be in civil service in any case. You can be good elsewhere. But don't wear something which is unusual, which usually people don't wear. So think over it, what you're going to wear. It's very important. Then the dress has to be very, very comfortable and arrive for the interview on time. I mean, I don't think there are very many people who don't arrive on time, but some have the habit of catching the train at the last minute. This is not a train. This is a matter of your life. So be on time there and have some time to sit around there. Chat with people, because you'll be sitting with other persons who will be called to interview. You will get the comfort of sitting there. If you're rushing in and rushing into the board, then you may have problem. This point is very important, active listening. Active listening is actually communication. You must very carefully listen to the questions or the observations of the board and never ever interrupt them, even if you know the answer. Sometimes in the anxiousness or anxiety of responding, you don't even allow that person to complete his question and start answering. No, don't do that. You must not do that. You should allow him to complete a sentence. Take a breath thereafter, because he may still not have completed. There's no harm in a 1 second, 2 second pause between his question and your answer. Doesn't make a difference. But if you answer and he's not completed questions, it will be negative. The second important point is that, which I mentioned earlier, you should always have some gate opened at the back, not physical one. So when you're answering a question, you may be confident, but don't use it as that is how it should be. I think the term should be avoided. Should means that you've arrived at conclusion. At your age, as I said earlier, you're not supposed to have arrived at conclusions. There's so much to learn still. Your opinion is based on the facts that are available at that point in time with you. If some more facts come to be get to be known to you, you obviously should have an option to change your point of view. So you should not be you should be decisive, but you should not appear arrogant in terms of that is the point of view, that is the only point of view. Obviously, you're not there to fight with the board. You're not there to clinch an argument. You're merely presenting a point of view. There will be occasions when there will be a different opinion. Accept it. Don't try and win an argument. That's not the case. If you try and win an argument, you will be in trouble. Never ever try to win an argument. Present your point of view politely. If there's a different opinion, accept that different opinion. There's no harm in accepting a different opinion. I don't think there are conclusive conclusions with regard to sensitive issues. There'll still be different opinion. So take up, as you practice henceforth, take up very sensitive issues. In your group discussions, take up sensitive issues and see how would you respond to those sensitive issues. When I discuss with you one-on-one, I will suggest to you what are the possible sensitive issues that could be raised in a board based on your DAF 2. And then you can prepare yourself mentally as to how do you respond to them, but never give an impression that you are the authority on a particular issue, which you aren't. So you must understand the difference between presenting your point confidently and being able to accept the arguments and the suggestions given by others. So you should appear to have an open mind without being fickle. You know, sometimes there is a confusion. People ask me, sir, if I don't present it confidently, they will think I'm a fickle person. No, you have to do it confidently, but you should be humble enough to accept the fact that there could be another point of view. So going back to the same problem of Kashmir issue, you may have a point of view how Kashmir. Some people ask me, they could ask you why 370 is a disaster. Removal of 370 was a wrong decision. Now, I usually suggest don't start your answer with yes and no. Your conclusion should come in the end. You can't start with the conclusion. So suppose I ask you 370 removal, abrogation was a disaster. You can't start with yes or no. You start by explaining, sir, these were the apparently these. I'm using these words apparently, probably. Why? Because I'm not still totally convinced about a particular set of argument. So I'll say, sir, in my limited understanding, 370 degrees was removed for the following reasons. And to a largely, sir, I believe that they have been fulfilled. There are some areas of concern. You can give those areas concern. So what I'm trying to do here is bring in a balanced view. You should not be taking an extreme view at all. The reason is very simple. At your age and stage in life, you're not supposed to know the final conclusions of such vexed issues. They're difficult, problemsome issues. So you may have a point of view, you present them logically, you present them rationally, but you have still to come to conclusions. Your intermediate conclusions are based on the information available at your command, and that's what comes here. You have to be concise, you have to be honest. I keep repeating this word. You must understand the difference between the facts and views. Suppose a factual question is asked of you. If you know the facts, say it. If you don't know the facts, say no. Keep repeating. I mean, even in the next question, they ask you a fact you don't know, say no. Don't try and guess a fact. A board member can ask you, okay, take a guess, then you take a guess. But if you're not asked to take a guess, don't, some people ask me, sir, should I ask the board, can I guess? No, you are not supposed to ask them whether you can guess. They will ask you if they want you to guess. Then there is something called an opinion. Now, opinion is also based on your knowledge of certain facts. Now, if you're not fully conversant with the facts, you can confess and say, sir, I'm not fully conversant with the issue. They may still say, no, whatever you know, you tell me. But if you say, no, sir, this is what it is, without knowing the facts, and you give your view, then you could be in trouble. So understand the difference between facts and opinions. That's what this is the last one. Differentiating between facts and opinion. Do not guess about facts. It's very important. And before I conclude, I'd like to reiterate this point that your confidence and humility have to go together. I mean, people confuse. They say, if I'm humble, I will not appear confident. No, you can be very humble and very confident. Confident on the basis of the information that you have. If they provide you additional information, then you should be humble enough to take that information and rethink your point of view. That's the point they want. So what they're looking at, here is a person who's confident but has an open mind. Here is a person who's positive in his thinking. Here is a person who has integrity. Here's a person who can lead people. And this they are going to discern through the questions that you are going to ask. So that is what So as I said, you have to have a balanced view. Don't take an extreme view. Never take an extreme view. Have a balanced view. They might still push you to take a point of view. If they push you, then say, sir, again, based on limited information that I have, in knowledge that I have, this possibly is the way forward. Now, these are words that you'll have to practice in the next 2 months. Use the word possible on the basis of my opinion, what I've heard, because some people ask me, they've filled a particular preference for a state, which is not their home state. Or you've given IS as the first choice, or you've given IFS as the first choice. Why did you do that? Now, obviously, you have not experienced being an IS officer. Your opinion is based on what you heard. And there's no harm in it, admitting it. Sir, I have not been an IS officer. I don't really know, but this is what I've heard from my friends, from other people I spoke to. Fair enough. That will be accepted. So you have to have a very balanced view. You can't take an extreme view on anything. Take any extreme view that Palestinians should be thrown out of Palestine. They should not stay there. What is your view? You can't say, yes, they should be thrown out, or you don't know, sir, they should stay there. You must build that argument and say, sir, in my understanding of the issue, it would be better if Palestinians are given some space and there could be an agreement between the Palestinians and the Israelis on what those issues could be, or what the aspect could be, what the conditions could be. They will say it has not worked in the past, it will not work in the future. Sir, it may still not work, but we have to give it a try. That's the way of looking forward. You can't give up and say, since it didn't work in the past, you will not do it. So that's how you have to look at it. And then, of course, ethical foundations. You all have given ethics as a paper. I don't want to elaborate it, but in all such, there will be ethical questions asked of you. You have to be very clear in your mind. And I would suggest, if possible, watch my videos on ethics. You will get an idea as to, if you are given an ethical situation, what should be your approach. I mean, I have written about 72 case studies in ethical dilemmas of a civil servant, where in different situations, I would believe how a civil servant should respond. So they could give you situations where ethical issues are involved, and ethics is basically, in your understanding, what is right and wrong. And you should have, again, clarity here. Your integrity will be tested in the terms, if they're given 2 case studies and you have a different view, then they will catch you that he's trying to make up. So your integrity will be tested. So these are important aspects. Best wishes to all of you. I hope you benefit from this. And as I suggested earlier, those that have registered with Study IQ, I will be available to them for one-on-one discussion, to their choice, whether they want to do it online or offline. There will be other sessions that will be taken here in Study IQ. There will be a session on DAF2, on what sort of questions can be asked DAF2. This will be taken on the 26th of December this year. Thereafter, we have a host of sessions lined up with toppers of previous years in the IS, who will come and talk to you and tell you what did they do. Apart from that, there will be mock interviews also. So all in all, there is a beautiful package. But my suggestion is, don't be serious, but take this seriously. God bless you.